You know, and I think that's the big misconception is like when you're pitching somebody, you work for the opposition. You're on the other side of the table. When you're a listener, you're on their team. But most advisors out there are pitch slappers rather than listeners. When I think about pitch slapping, most advisors will start off listening with the intent to, you know, talk half as much as they listen, but almost always end up pitching product rather than sitting back and letting the prospect tell them how they've tried to solve it so far and what they want their solution to be going forward. And the latter will close way more than the former. Those that listen will outclose the pitch slappers 10 to 1. And there's an art to it. An example of pitch slapping is, you know, I start off with a couple questions, get the dialogue going. I think most folks, even pitch slappers, will do that. They'll jump in there. Oh, Mr. Jones, you know, what's going on? You guys came to my workshop last night. How far out are you from retirement? And they'll say something like, oh, you know, we're a few years out. We're starting to do our planning. Fantastic. You know, what have you done so far? And they'll say, well, you know, we've done this, we've done that, we've got this problem, we got that problem. Fantastic. You know what I find is a really great solution for something like that? I've seen a lot of people do this. This is a really great option. I'm already in the first appointment with these folks starting to talk about potential solutions. And that is the earmark of a pitch slapper. You jump right to where you think you might have a solve it. And you might be right. You know, sometimes pitch slappers are right. They're like, yeah, this is the solution for the problem that you have, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. And what you end up with a lot of times as a pitch slapper is, I want to think about it. We got to think this over. I got to talk this over. And you put yourself in this position where you get a ton of objections. Objections come when there are false assumptions made. And so to avoid that, the skill of listening, the listener, they avoid 90% of objections, and they end up with a prospect that almost adores them, and they've barely done any talking. I would dare to say that a active listener is the exact opposite of a pitch slapper. They will sit there and in relative silence and get the prospect to do all of the heavy lifting of the entire sale themselves. And they'll walk away with a prospect that says, you know, oh gosh, I adored that guy. The big thing is, you know, salespeople of all kinds, pitch slappers and listeners, they're all good salespeople. They're charismatic, they're likable, they're intelligent oftentimes. I mean, good salespeople on both sides. The thing is, one guy walks away without any closes, and the other guy walks away with a huge book of business. Just put yourself in their shoes. Have you ever been in a conversation where you sat down and talked with somebody, and you said 4 or 5 words, and then all of a sudden they're talking for the rest of the night? You may have been at a party, you've talked to this person, and you walk away and you're like, man, that guy's kind of an arrogant guy. Huh? That guy doesn't know. Oh gosh, yeah. I don't want to get trapped in a conversation with him again, man. He just talks. And then vice versa, when you kind of play that role, you know, some guy asks you, you know, oh, you know, hey Al, what do you do for a living? And then you get to talk, and they just keep the conversation going, and you talk all night to this guy, maybe for an hour, about what you do for a living and how much you love it and all the drama going on in your office and all the other stuff. You walk away at the end of the night, it's like, man, I really like that guy. You know, he's just so easy to talk to. Gosh, I love that. And it's like, you may have done the exact opposite of what the first guy did, but you're now on the other side. You're the person talking the whole time. You love the guy that just sat there and listened, but you hate the guy that you said 2 words to, and then they took over the conversation all the time. Don't be the guy that takes over the conversation, because at the end of the day, you get to this point where it's like, yeah, you both have found maybe the right conclusion for the client, but the prospect doesn't like you. And we do business with people that we like. So refrain from trying to dominate the conversation through talking. Instead, try to dominate the conversation through listening. It's the key core to continuing a conversation. If you're just going to sit there completely still, and do absolutely nothing with your body at all, not even no sort of eye contact, no sort of head bob. You just sit there completely still, and you're just basically having somebody talk at you like that. What's going to happen? Person's going to start to feel weird. Like, are you there? Are you paying attention? Are you just staring at me? Is he staring into my soul? And so they clam up and the conversation just stops. So you're not being a good listener there. I always like to make it almost closer to a metaphor of a basketball spinning on a finger. Active listeners are the hand. Active listening is the hand keeping the ball spinning. If I just sit there and I do nothing after that initial spin, the ball's going to fall off the finger eventually. But if I keep that ball moving with active listening, and I give it a little pump every once in a while, the conversation will flow indefinitely. And right, you got to have the right balance to it, right? You got to keep it in the right area. And that's, every once in a while you got to give like almost a balanced test. But we want to avoid being the pitch slapper, right? Where I basically stop the ball and I hold it on the finger by basically just completely dominating the conversation with myself, and I hold the ball there with my other hand. The idea with active listening are these little subtle things of, oh, okay, yeah, no, that makes sense, all right. And then what did you do? And so it's about riding the emotional wave with the prospect. They're gonna, if you start a conversation with that initial jolt of energy, you say, okay, guys, well, look, when are you looking to retire? What's going on? What's the plan? And riding the emotional side too. I mentioned that already. If they're high, you're high. If they're, talking about something somber, you're softer. Eventually, you end at your conclusion, but not something that I've manufactured. Maybe I've manufactured it through the active listening, but I've helped them with this moment of self-discovery. It's different dragging a horse to water, dragging that horse to get down to the water and then forcing it down to start drinking. You're going to get a fight the whole way when you didn't have to do that. When you could slowly guide and usher that horse down to the water. Come on, no, that's great. That's the right thing to do. And slowly but surely you get down to the water and they start to drink for themselves. That's the masterclass of sales. At the end of the day, people like people that listen to them, and people buy things from people that they like. And, if you like this content, if you're looking for more content like this, go ahead and check out some of our other videos that we have out there. We've got a ton of great content all about sales. And again, if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button, become a subscriber. If you like this video, give it a like. That always helps. And if you have any comments about what we're talking about, go ahead and throw it in the comment section. We love reading those and responding to everybody. We'll see you next time here on Coffee with Closers. Take care.